During your initial stages in international student recruitment, what are the fundamental challenges that you have faced? Let's say numerous academic or language requirements or student accommodations, etc. How did you face those challenges?
So those are really good questions, and they certainly do identify many of the challenges that we actually had. The first challenge was that we were in a town with a really funny name that nobody in Hong Kong had ever heard of, Kamloops. They knew about British Columbia, and Vancouver was extremely well known because there were strong economic and family connections between Hong Kong and Vancouver. So what we had to do was explain that we were 235 miles inland from Vancouver. We also had to emphasize the fact that we were a public institution. We were not a private college. Now, the language issue, well, that was very important. Most Hong Kong students did speak some English. Some spoke very, very poor English, certainly not sufficient to go into their academic program right away. So we started English as a second language program that became extremely important and remains so. Because of that, we were able to somewhat reduce the language scores that we asked students to have in order to come to Caribou. They had to understand that they would have to spend time in our ESL program. But at that time, we had a 5-tier program. And what we did was make it possible for people at level 4 and level 5 to begin to take their academic courses, so that by the time they finished level 5, they had also finished their entire first academic semester. And that worked extremely, extremely well. Accommodation, well, we did what everybody else was doing. We had a homestay program. And I hired individuals to manage the homestay program for me, and they all spoke the appropriate languages. Originally, the program was just me, but by the time I left, it was a staff of 14. So we were very flexible that way, and so we established this homestay program. We sent staff to evaluate the accommodations. They had to meet certain standards, and we fixed the price. That worked extremely well when the China market began to open. But certainly there were many, many parents who appreciated the fact that we arranged and coordinated and managed the homestay program. Later on, I'm not quite sure of the date, we got on-campus accommodations. Residents were built. In that case, students could choose to be in residence or could choose to be on the homestay program. And since that time, and literally hundreds and hundreds of students now can stay in residence if they want to. But that's how we handled making ourselves known in this strange place that we were located. And we had a strange name. 2-year colleges were not fully understood. So we had a lot of groundwork to do, but we needed people like Elvis, who was able and willing to help us do that. So those 3 challenges that you mentioned were indeed pretty significant. They were the 3 major challenges, and that is how we overcame them. The international world is well established now in British Columbia. All the institutions that I know about have international programs. There is a crimp in them with the COVID pandemic. The travel restrictions are making it extremely difficult. But leaving that aside, I would say to students that are interested in studying in British Columbia that their experience there will be very, very positive. For decades now, these institutions have welcomed international students to enrich the post-secondary experience of everybody, their own post-secondary experience in another country, and also the post-secondary experience of Canadian students who have an opportunity to meet and get to know and become friends with students from all over the world. I was an international student myself. I was born in the UK, but I wanted to come to UBC. And what that meant was that I was a member of International House, as they called it in those days. And I met students from all over the world. And it was absolutely marvelous opportunity. And I enjoyed that a great deal. And it's one of the reasons that I pushed to internationalize Caribou College as soon as possible. A post-secondary education should be an international education as well, no matter who you are or where you come from.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with CISM today. We are so glad to have met you, and we learned a lot about your challenges and achievements for international education in British Columbia. Thank you so much.